All right. So looking at this histogram, um, what we need now is we need to format the x-axes and the y-axes so that the axes are bold black lines and that the tick marks are bold and easily identifiable both on the x-axis and on the y-axis. We also need to increase the font size so it'll be easier to read if this graph was condensed to at least half its size. So to do that, first select the graph or your chart, and then select, it's easy just to click on maybe one of the x-axis values, and you'll notice that you now have a selection box with these light blue dots as control points. That kind of indicates visually that you've selected the axis. And if you still have this toolbar, this sidebar open on the right, you'll notice it says Format Axis. If you had accidentally closed this sidebar like that, you can always bring it back by right-clicking like on the axis like this, and then choose Format Axis, and it brings it back up again. Okay, so there's a number of things we want to do. So the first is let's increase the font size of this. So we'll come over here to the Home menu, and this is where it gives us the options to change the fonts. So a commonly used font for figures and graphs and research papers and journal articles is going to be Times New Roman. So I'm going to scroll down my list of fonts until I get to Times New Roman. Select that. And a font size that works for the labels is maybe a size 16. And we want to make that bold so it's easier to read. And also Microsoft Excel tends to like to make things not black, but dark gray. So let's check the font color and make sure it's black. Okay, it's black. So we're good. Let's go ahead and do the same thing here on the y-axis. So we're going to click on one of the values on the y-axis. You can see it gives us that control box with those blue control points. That's kind of indicating to us we've selected the axis. And let's make the font the same, 16 point and bold. All right. Okay, so let's go back to the x-axis again. And let's look at the format access options that we have here on the right-hand side. So let's first start with the fill and line options, which is this paint bucket. So I'm going to left-click that. And we'll leave the fill alone. We're not going to worry about that. But under line, let's change it to a solid line. And again, check the color. It should be black. And it is. Okay, that's good. And let's set the width to a width of 2 points. Now you'll notice when I change the width, it's going to change the width of this line. It'll become heavier. So let's increase that to 2 points. So usually 2 point or 3 point seems to work well. I'm going to put 2, but you can kind of change that to your liking. I do not see any other options that we want to change at this point here. So let's look at size and properties. I don't think there's anything there we want to change. Nope, don't see anything there we want to change. Let's go to axis options. And let's see, we have these. We don't need to change, but under tick marks. So under major type and minor type. So right now the major type tick marks are on the outside. And so that's actually putting tick marks here on the lower class boundary and the upper class boundary, but we want it to be on the midpoint. And so we can get the midpoint tick mark to appear by changing the minor type from none to outside. Now you'll see we've got a tick mark right here at the midpoint. And major type, we can put that back to none. And now that gets rid of the upper bound and the lower bound tick marks for each class. So it leaves us with only the midpoint tick mark. Let's look at labels. There's nothing there we need to change. And number, there's nothing there we need to change. So that looks pretty good. All right, let's do the same set of operations here to the y-axis. So we're going to click on the vertical axis of value. Gives us that control box, which lets us know that the axis is selected. And let's go in order as we did before. So clicking on the paint bucket, which is the fill and line properties. Fill, we're going to pass, let's go to line, change it to a solid line. Make sure that it's black and a width of 2. Like that. Let's see here. Scroll down. I don't think there's anything else that we need to change. In this case, on this axis, major type being outside puts us right at 70, 80, 90. So that looks just fine. Everything else looks good. All right, so we will stop there. So that is formatting the x-axis and the y-axis.